Well, Gina, it's our last segment, and we are asking the question, how much maintenance is enough?
Yes. Many people have pondered that question. And
I know I fall asleep thinking about it.
And in this case, it's been the California State Legislature.
They're dreaming about this.
Yes, and there has been what would be considered the definitive work of homeowner associations. There have been two legislators in California who have been very instrumental in really detailing and outlining and coming up with a block of statutory law as it pertains to homeowner associations, condominiums, and their last names are Davis and the other gentleman, Sterling.
And they're actually... Are they trying to develop a maintenance manual or legislate a maintenance manual?
This is just one piece of this huge piece that they've put together. But the people refer to, we talk about it as 515A, 515B.
The Minnesota Common Interest Ownership Act. Okay.
There they refer to it as the Davis-Sterling Common Interest Act.
I see.
It's the Davis-Sterling Act because these two have been so instrumental over the last number of years. And so what we are seeing here coming out of California is just a continual tweaking of what they have developed.
Their basic legislation that rules CICs. Yeah.
And what we see with a lot of the stories that we cover here on the radio show from around the country, people get upset because they think they're being taken advantage of. They think that they're being maligned some way. And so legislators say, well, then that means we need to put more in place. We need to
pass legislation to address your issue.
We need more laws. We need to be more specific. Mm-hmm. My concern with what's happening is that especially in California, and that's why I wanted to address it here today on the show, they are trying to be so specific in trying to answer the question, how much maintenance is enough? When is a board done their due diligence and have been appropriate in addressing something, and when can they consider that we've done enough? We've done enough.
We've done everything reasonable.
Because the bottom line is we all know situations, whether it is your automobile or a leaky roof or an appliance that isn't working right. A lot of times you don't know what the problem is.
Sure.
And so when you take it, your car is a perfect example. You bring your car in to an auto mechanic, and he says, I don't know, it could be a number of things. Well, what do you think? He says, well, here's one thing we can do for $75. If that doesn't do it, here's something we can do for $200. And then, of course, if you want to spend $1,150,
we can do that too.
I can guarantee that won't happen because we'll have taken care. So which do you want?
Okay.
When given those kind of choices, what does common sense, what does human nature tell you you're going to do?
Well, you're going to start small, right?
Exactly.
Right.
And so that's what happens. Unfortunately, when it comes to homeowner associations, when a board now acts that way and does that smaller repair, why? Because overall, I think we're talking good folks who are trying to manage the money correctly with an association.
Well, sure, because if they don't, then they're going to be accused of blowing the association's money.
They want it to stretch.
Right, they're trying to strike this balance.
Yeah, and so so what's happening now, and we've seen it in other legislations in at least 2 or 3 other states.
Yeah.
Someone else says the board wasn't doing due diligence. That was in that story. That was my comment, or I guess, or the point I was trying to make with David earlier when we were talking about insurance. People were upset with insurance, and they didn't think that
their board didn't get enough insurance, or they didn't get enough advice about what the insurance they needed.
Yes, and there's something here. When dealing with the areas of negligence, people always deal with what has been considered the prudent man argument. What would a normal individual do or think in that situation?
Is it even possible to make a judgment based on that, Gene?
Well,
because you get two prudent men in a room, and how much are they really going to agree upon?
Well, when you get two prudent people in the room, the question is just asking, would it make sense for someone to act that way in that situation? Okay. So it's not necessarily what exactly is
the right thing. It's does it make sense?
Did this person make sense? Would someone else have acted that way as well? So
let me give you an example. So the roof is leaking.
Yeah.
Does it make sense to tear off the roof and replace the plywood sheathing and the ice barrier and all the shingles to address one roof leak? Mm-hmm. Well, no, it doesn't. It makes sense to try and address that one leak and make a repair. But if that repair doesn't work, someone's going to say you did the wrong thing.
Yes.
Right?
And what happens is that you'll get, and I can understand the homeowner's point of view. The individual homeowner says, you said you sent someone out, you spent money, and it's still not taken care of.
Right.
I can understand that. I understand where you're coming from.
Sure.
But that you're frustrated.
It doesn't mean they did the wrong thing or that they took the wrong step.
Or that they weren't acting in a prudent manner.
That's right. That in a reasonable, responsible way.
Yes. So what we have here in this Davis-Sterling Act is something very, very specific. They've gotten to a point where they said, well, how to answer the question, how much maintenance is enough? Here's what the Davis-Sterling Act said. There's a requirement now for compliance with what's called a project maintenance manual that must be in place for every property, every homeowner association, which will pose special risks for managers and directors because the failure to comply could reduce the recovery available to associations in construction defect claims. You've got what you're talking about here is they're saying, okay, what's appropriate? The appropriate thing to do? Mm-hmm. Here's a manual, and it's part of the act now.
It's part of the law
that you have to. That every association, that was built after 2003, I believe. It states must have this comprehensive manual, and then of course the act.
Who draws up this manual? Is that specified?
Well,
in this
yes,
law?
it says that will be done by the builder, the developer,
who
will put in. But when you take a look at the manual, you would think that most maintenance manuals, when I think of a maintenance manual, I think of a maintenance manual that says, maintenance manual for a car says every so many thousand miles, change the oil.
There you go.
Rotate
your tires.
Rotate your your tires.
Right.
Telling you specifically what to do.
Right.
In this particular case, this is where the act, the Davis-Sterling Act, falls down because they are very general in nature. And then they say you need to refer to the warranties of the windows and the various and sundry items that are the components in the association, and then they add that you homeowner, you've got to make sure that you are following all of these guidelines with manufacturers' suggestion on how to deal and maintain these components. Otherwise, you're going to negate the warranty.
Wow.
And so, I mean, can you homeowners aren't even taking the time to read really the governing documents before they buy. Now you're asking them to also be responsible for knowing the suggested maintenance specifications on all components in your home. And if not, that would possibly negate the warranty.
I can see where developers and builders need to limit their risk somehow. Mm-hmm. And I can see the thought behind this. It seems an impossible task, doesn't it? To have a definitive manual that will cover all exigencies and I don't know, be a guideline. I don't know.
I think what's happening is that the act here in California is getting to a point where they are overreaching what they can actually do. I understand the thought process behind it, but I don't think it's going to be able to be something that people can adhere to. There's so much more to cover. We can cover on this subject on another time here too.
All right.
But we're out of time. Folks, thanks so much for listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. We hope that you have a great rest of the weekend. And join us again next Sunday right here at 10 on Where You Live with Gene and Tony on AM 1280 The Patriot.